Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about Cascarilla, and I'm just going to be explaining what it is and how you can use it. So I do have my Cascarilla, and Cascarilla, you guys, is basically eggshells that have gone through the process of being made into a powder or chalk form. And you can buy it as a powder, you can buy it as chalk, and if you buy it as chalk, you can also ground it down to a powder. And yeah, you can make it yourself as well, but it's easy, but it's very tedious. So I tend to just buy it from a trusted source. And this is basically how it looks. And you will find that a lot of like Afro-derived traditions or Afro-derived religions typically use this in their practices. So things like Cascarilla, Hoodoo, Voodoo, things like that. And the whole purpose of using Cascarilla powder like in your spiritual practices is to create like very protective barriers, so some form of protection. And it's also used for like cleansings and driving out negative energy and bringing in good energy. And I'm also in a belief that like when you're in your spiritual practice and you're, using different things, it's very important to understand the history of what you're using and where it comes from. So Cascarilla powder is actually a variation of something else. It didn't start out as in practices as using eggshell powder. It's a variation of Efu, which actually comes from West Africa. So that is something that's native to West Africa. It's like a white clay, and basically what they use it for is for the same things pretty much. It's like protection and cleansing, and they also use it to give it to the different orishas. And because of the transatlantic slave trade, basically millions of enslaved Africans were forced to come out west, and they were brought to like North America, South America, and different Caribbean islands. And when they were brought over here, they brought a lot of their knowledge, which is why I feel like Africa, specifically West Africa, is like the blueprint for a lot of the things that's influenced over here as far as like with religion and spirituality. You can see it through like food and music, even the infrastructures and like in political dynamics. Like it's so many things that Africa, especially West Africa, influence. And so with them coming over here, it didn't stop them from practicing the things that they were practicing or stop believing in certain spiritual beliefs that they had. Even if it was illegal for them to do so, they still kept on or held on to their own beliefs. And so when you had enslaved Africans be forced to come to Cuba, basically they figured out that they could still have like that powder form in a way of using eggshells. So because they couldn't use the same things that they had that was native to West Africa to create the powder, they figured out, oh, we can use eggshells. And so that's pretty much how like Cascarilla powder got incorporated into the practice of Santeria, which obviously started in Cuba. And eventually it did come to the United States because obviously, we use it in Hoodoo, and that kind of came way by port. Because I know sometimes when people think of like people being enslaved, they automatically think like fields, like picking cotton, or like working in a house and serving people. But you also had enslaved people actually working in ports, right? Not everybody did the same thing. And so say for example, you had like the port out in New Orleans, and then you had the Havana port. Both have enslaved Africans working there. So when the workers were able to be around each other, they were able to exchange different information about what's happening, right? And some of the information that they exchanged was different spiritual practices that they found, or different variations, things like that. They just kind of exchange information. So what would happen is an enslaved person from Cuba would tell an enslaved person that was at the New Orleans port, and that person that was at the New Orleans port would go back and tell other people. And that's kind of how the information spread to where now we're using Cascarilla powder in the Hoodoo practice. And so when it comes to how to actually use it, because like I said earlier, Cascarilla powder is basically a way to create like protective barriers and allow yourself to be protected and cleansed. So one way that you can use it is as a protective barrier. So like if you're making certain protective powders like red brick dust, for example, you can put Cascarilla powder in there, or any type of protective powder that you're making, you can put it in your protective powders. You can also put it at the thresholds of your door or at the windowsills. So this is basically allows a protective barrier, so unwanted spirits and stuff can't come into your home, or unwanted guests cannot be brought to your home. Same for like if you live in a house, you could literally get the powder and just go around your house counterclockwise and put that protective barrier and make a circle so your house can be protected as well, right? Cascarilla powder can also be really good when you're doing divination and you're connecting with the other side. So when you're doing things like mediumship, it can be really good for you to kind of like dust your hands with the powder as a form of being protected, right, as you're communicating with the other side. You can also do that when you're leaving the house and you know you're free to, you know, be in environments where it's a lot of people and you don't want to really absorb the energy from where you're going, as a way to protect your own energy. You could do that as well. You could do things like take the Cascarilla powder or the chalk and kind of create like a cross on you when you're sleeping or before you sleep, as a way to be protected during your sleep, because as you know, sleeping and getting dreams is a form of divination. After you take a cleansing bath, you can also put a cross symbol on you as a way of like sealing the bath that you took. And even with baths, right, when you're making certain cleansing baths, that is something that you can put inside your cleansing bath. You can put Cascarilla in it. You can also put Cascarilla in different floor washes as well. So like if you're doing like a protective floor wash, you can put Cascarilla in your floor wash. There's so many different things you can do with Cascarilla powder. I mean, you could dress your candles, like your protective candles, you could dress it with that. I mean, you could use symbols on your altar when you're doing different workings as a protection. Like, it's just so many different things, y'all. And I always say, use it to how you feel like using certain things, just in general. Like sometimes you could just be doing something in a moment and then spirit will make you feel like, oh, I want to use it in this way, you know what I'm saying? So kind of use your own intuition as to how you want to use the Cascarilla powder as well, right? So yeah, that's pretty much it, you guys. Thank you so much for watching the video, and if you have any questions, leave them down below.